Hey, welcome back to the Mr. Excel Netcast. I'm Bill Jelen. Today we have a question that was asked by Rod. Rod's from Cincinnati. He was at the Power Analyst Boot Camp in Chicago last week. Thought it was a pretty interesting question, and it actually took us a little bit of time to get it working properly, so I want to go through what's up there. He basically had a series of different workbooks for different departments. In my example, I just have apple, banana, cherry, eggplant, grapes, and kale. And on the summary page, he wanted to be able to selectively grab numbers from a certain worksheet based on a value that the person chose. So he set up a little data validation here with a list, and they could choose one of the departments, and when they chose that department, he wanted the formulas to go grab values from that certain worksheet. Well, the solution to this is something called indirect, the indirect function. And basically an indirect, instead of putting a specific cell function, you're going to put a calculation or a text value that refers to a specific cell. So for example, if I wanted to grab F2, I might put a little concatenation in here and say that I wanted, in quotes, F ampersand, and then instead of using a 2, I'm going to put the row of A2. Row of A2, of course, will give me 2, and we'll close that. Sure enough, it grabs the 46 from this cell, but the nice thing is, as I copy this down, the row of A2 changes, and so it's pointing to a different value. We say, okay, that seems kind of pointless, but it helps in this particular situation. If I need to build a link back to another worksheet, let's just build a hard-coded one. I'm going to type the equal sign, click on Apple, click on B2, and I'll see that the proper syntax for that formula up here in the formula bar is equal Apple exclamation point B2. Now, sometimes you might have a worksheet tab that has a space in the middle. So let me just put here Apple space sales, and we'll go back and look at our original formula. And you see that as soon as the worksheet name has a space in the formula bar, they wrap the sheet name in apostrophes. Okay, so let's take a look at the formula that I built for Rod. If I edit that formula, basically I have equal indirect, and then what I have is quote apostrophe quote. That gets that leading apostrophe in, and ampersand, and then C16 is the value where the user chooses banana, cherry. They basically choose the department. After that, put the ampersand and then an apostrophe to close the sheet name and an exclamation point. Now, in this case, all of the department names were single words. They didn't have any spaces, but I went ahead and put the apostrophes in just in case someday in the future someone adds a new sheet with spaces. That way it'll work. And then once I have the sheet name called out, I basically need to find a way to specify B2. I'm using a different function here called the address function. The address function, I have to give it a row and a column, and Excel will go through and build that particular address. So I ask for the row of B2 and the column of B2. The nice thing is, as we copy that, of course, it will work. Let's just do a quick little test here. Let's see what happens when we evaluate this formula. I'll choose the formula Tools, Formula Auditing, Evaluate Formula. And basically, you'll see that the C16 is evaluated, in this case, to banana. And it goes ahead and builds the apostrophe on each side and the exclamation point. Now the row of B2 is the number 2, the column of B2 is the number 2, and this is interesting, the address of 2, 2 is the text $B, $2. So now Excel basically has a situation where the formula is pointing to banana, exclamation point, $B, $2. The indirect, of course, goes and grabs that value from the banana sheet and gives us the 75. When we choose a different sheet name, that whole calculation happens again, but this time it evaluates to a reference to the cherry worksheet. Very cool using indirect. You can create a nice little summary report here. Someone chooses a department and it goes and grabs the values from that specific department. Indirect, very cool. The big problem I had when I tried to build indirect, I looked at my original formula and said, oh, well, it starts with an equal sign, and I put the equal sign in. You don't put the equal sign in the middle of indirect. You're just looking for the whole cell reference that follows the equal sign. So, great question from Rod. Thanks for sending it in, and hopefully the next time that you need to do this, you can think about the indirect function. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time for another netcast from Mr. Excel.